Hi everyone, welcome to part one of exploring minor league baseball team names. This is something I've been interested in for years because there are some funny, creative, amazing team names out there in minor league baseball. And I was recently reminded of this a few weeks ago when I saw a shirt online for the Rocket City Trash Pandas, a new minor league baseball team that was meant to come this year. So in this series, I'm with two of my close friends, Chandler and Jasper, and we're just going to be talking about what we consider the best names in all of minor league baseball. I know this type of video isn't for everybody, but we had a lot of fun making it, so I hope you stick around for the full series. So let's jump into it. This is part one, where we're going to be talking about some of the best promotional team names in all of minor league baseball. Welcome everybody. I have with me two close friends of mine, Chandler and Jasper, both big baseball fans. Chandler, you're currently a D3 player at the University of Chicago. Your season just got cut short, but playing in the college system, do you feel like you know a lot about minor league clubs?
Probably more than the average person.
Okay, that's a good start. I've also got Jasper, big Yankees fan, but from my understanding, you weren't always a Yankees fan. What's that story?
That's correct. I lived in Boston for 2 years of my life, and I was about 5 years old when we moved to New York, and I thought I had to like the team that I was from, so I became a Yankee fan.
And you've been a Yankee fan ever since?
That's right.
All right, well, I'm glad I got you guys here. Couldn't think of two better people to talk baseball with. I've done a lot of research on this. I'm really excited about this. There's so much good stuff out there. There were points where I started feeling overwhelmed even doing all the research I was doing because there's so much good stuff out there.
Okay.
So are you guys ready to go?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Let's get into it. So we're talking about some of the best minor league team names there are in minor league baseball. This means teams that are affiliated with some major league club at all the different levels that there are. I threw a couple of independent teams in there. They're not going to be in the full team in the what we're going to be talking about later, but I threw a couple of honorable mention independent teams. So before we get into the main event, we got to warm up a little bit. I want to talk about because there are teams with great names, but beyond that, there are so many promotions that go on in minor league baseball with amazing team names. So before we even talk about minor league baseball, I got to give a quick shout out to the Savannah Bananas. This is not a minor league team. This is a summer collegiate wood bat league team in Savannah, Georgia. Look at those bright yellow uniforms.
It's heinous.
But what really stands out to me, this video is called Kilt Game Recap 2019. Just to give you an idea. This team really played a full game in kilts. And I don't know if you can see, but on the kilt in like the bottom left corner, like right over the left thigh, they even have players' numbers on the kilts. They went that deep. There's a great video they made about it. I think they've done this 2 or 3 times, like once for each of the last 2 or 3 seasons. And there's this great like 9-minute documentary on YouTube called The Greatest Game Ever Played in Kilts. And it's actually really interesting, so highly recommend going to watch that after this.
Do they have any connection to Scotland or anything like that, or are they just...
I don't think so. You know what's funny? When I looked it up, it was in celebration of St. Patrick's Day, but it was July.
Naturally.
So they were wearing Scottish kilts to an Irish-themed holiday that was like 3 months later.
Makes sense.
So I just thought that was so funny. I had to bring them in. Now let's move on to some actual minor league teams. So what a lot of teams will do, we're jumping straight into some of the best here, because what some teams will do is they'll actually have promotions where they play 2 or 3 games under a different name. So as if their regular names weren't already crazy enough, they go a step further and come up with the weirdest things they can think of, and they get really creative because they're only playing 1 to 3 games with these names. So they really go for it. So we're going to start over here. We got the Vermont Maple Kings. Wasn't enough to be the Maples. They had to be the Maple Kings. I love the little jug of maple syrup. I don't know. That one's really funny to me. We got the Clearwater Beach Dogs. I think the Surfing Dog is amazing. These jerseys are pretty cool. Moving along here because we've got a lot to get through. The Pawtucket Hot Wieners. No explanation needed. It's a little wiener dog in a hot dog bun on fire. The Beer City Bung Hammers. In my research, a bung hammer is it's like this big mallet you use to like smack the lid to seal the lid onto a barrel of beer. And so I don't know if you can see the logo. It's a little cup, it's a little glass of beer slamming a bung hammer onto a barrel.
Nice.
Over here we got the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Melonheads. Don't know where that came from.
It looks like one of the teams from like backyard baseball from way back in the day.
Pablo.
What's the guy's?
Yeah, Pablo Sanchez from the Wilkes-Barre Melonheads.
Moving on, this one's great. The Staten Island Pizza Rats, combining 2 staples of New York into one fantastic logo. The Bowling Green Bootleggers. I think it's a funny name in general. I just have an issue with the jerseys. I don't know if you can see, but the jerseys look like a barrel. Like they're dirt brown and they've got like these gray metallic stripes going around like the clasps of a barrel.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be a no for me.
And then finally, the San Antonio Puffy Tacos. I did
Best
not know
one.
this was a thing. Apparently, Puffy Tacos are unique to San Antonio cuisine. It's like a taco, except when you're making the tortilla, instead of frying the dough, you deep fry it in oil, and it like makes the tortilla puffy, and then you make a taco out of that. I don't know about the jerseys. The jerseys are like puffy taco shell on the outside, taco filling on the inside.
Nice.
But
It's
I like
creative.
the logo.
I'll give them that.
It is. Moving on, because there were so many good ones.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
The Fresno Tacos. They were kind of the original team that started doing these promos. They first did it to coincide with the Fresno Taco Truck Showdown or whatever it's called. So they've been doing this for a few years now. They have some pretty cool logos.
So they predated the puffy tacos, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So
Oh,
they-
jeez.
They copied them then. They should send a cease and desist letter.
Well, a lot of these promotional names, as you'll see, are food-based.
Right.
For example, this next one, the Rochester Garbage Plates. I really like this.
Of course.
I really like this one because when I was later on, we'll talk about this more, but when I was coming up with fake minor league baseball team names, this is one that I actually came up with. And then when I was doing research, realized it actually existed.
Honestly, that one has got to be the best because they have Big Sexy on there.
I was about to say that is Big Sexy himself, Bartolo Colon, posing for the garbage plates. Chandler, if you don't know what a garbage plate is, Jasper, you might know.
I have some idea.
Founded in Rochester, New York. It's a big upstate New York thing. I don't have the exact ingredients here, but it's basically like macaroni salad, potatoes, beans, chili, ketchup, mustard, and you mix it all together.
Sounds delicious.
Maybe Bartolo had one too many of those when he was staying in Rochester.
Now, he definitely ate that before he hit his home run.
Yeah.
Bartolo Colon, definitely a big garbage plate guy. Next, the Syracuse Devices. This has to be one of the worst for me. If you don't know what that is, it's called a Brannock device, and it's what you use to measure your feet for your shoe size.
Oh my god.
I think this is an instance of if the joke isn't funny if you have to explain it. And I
That's
don't
just
think
trying too
anyone's
hard.
going to get that one.
Exactly. So they didn't even call themselves the Syracuse Brannocks, which I think would have been pretty cool to name after the guy who invented it. They just called themselves the Syracuse Devices. And I think the black jersey with the gray markings, it's a little creative, but it's ugly. This one is much better from them. The same team, the Syracuse Butter Sculptures.
Are they known for butter sculptures?
Dairy's a big upstate New York staple. And I know this photo's kind of small. Jasper, we actually saw a few of these players play when we went to the Syracuse Mets game.
Oh, yeah, of course.
On the left, this is Gregor Blanco, and in the middle is Rajai Davis. And I couldn't tell who this guy on the right was, but
So he came from hitting a game-tying home run in Game 7 of the World Series to wearing a butter sculpture on his.
yes.
That's when you know you've made it.
Yeah, it's the top of the top.
There's also a pretty good photo online of Tim Tebow leaning over the dugout rail wearing this jersey, looking like sad Tim Tebow. In a fitting continuation of the cheesy theme, or the dairy theme, the Kentucky beer cheese. I didn't even bother to do any research on that. I just think it's hilarious. I like the jerseys, though, I will say. The Hartford steamed cheeseburgers. I don't even know. The New England lobster rolls. I like that one. The Allegheny Yinzers.
The hell is that?
Yins guys going to the Allegheny Yinzers game.
In Pittsburgh, they don't say y'all or you guys if they're talking to multiple people. In Pittsburgh specifically, they have their own word for talking to multiple people, and it's yins. So, like, what are yins doing later? And so, for a game, I don't even know what team this was, but they became the Allegheny Yinzers for a game.
You know, I respect that they kept with the black and yellow, just like everything else in their state.
Yeah, like the bridge. I forget what the bridge is called, but the bridge in Pittsburgh as the logo, I think it's pretty clean, actually. Down on the left, we got the Binghamton Stud Muffins. This was actually in the top 5 finalists when they were trying to decide what to name the team a few years ago. I don't know if you can see, that's a muscular muffin right there as their logo on their hat.
Nice.
They ended up with a pretty good name anyways, though, which we'll talk about later. The Bowling Green Sinkholes. I don't know if you remember, I think it was 2014, the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, had a sinkhole that took 8 cars in the museum down into it.
How could I forget?
It was, it made some news.
Maybe in Bowling Green.
Well, last year, 5 years later, I think they decided enough time had passed that they could make fun of it. So they became the Bowling Green Sinkholes. You got a nice little car falling into the sinkhole there. Big fan of that. We got the Reading Whoopies, not to be confused with the Maine Whoopie Pies.
But it's the same general idea.
Yeah, interesting, but they have a different choice of how to represent the whoopie pie. The Reading Whoopies went for the horizontal, using the cream as the mouth, whereas the whoopie pies went for the vertical pie.
The whoopies make so much more sense.
Yeah, you're going to have to give that one to the Whoopies.
Really? I like the whoopie pies better. I think theirs is cleaner.
Well, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. The Great Lakes Camels, I don't really know where that name came from. This one is great, I think. The St. Paul Guttural Oofdas. Originally, so these are the St. Paul Saints. They're not affiliated with any club. They're an independent team up there in St. Paul. Chandler, didn't Cavan play for the Saints?
Yeah. Yep.
So we know someone who's played for the St. Paul Saints. Because there's a lot of Scandinavian heritage up in Minnesota, Oofda is a common phrase in Norwegian, kind of an exclamation. For context, apparently in the Norwegian dubbing of Peanuts, Charlie Brown says oofta instead of good grief. To give you an idea of what the phrase means. And so for a game, they decided to become the St. Paul guttural ooftas. I was really sad. This was the only photo I could find. I couldn't find any hats. I couldn't find any photos from the game. I could only find this promotional photo of the jersey. So I hope it really happened, but I don't really have any proof. This one I think is underrated, the Asheville Hippies. I don't know if you can see the great multicolored logo, the wild purple and turquoise. And this photo on the right doesn't really do justice. The entire jersey was like this tie-dye turquoise and purple with yellow letters on the back. So I think that was pretty cool. And then finally, the Charleston boiled peanuts. I like how on the jersey it just says boiled nuts.
Straight to the point.
It's like a peanut in a hot tub or something, just sweating it out. So there it is. That was part 1 of exploring minor league baseball team names. I hope you enjoyed. Stick around for the next episode where we're going to be talking about the Copa de la Diversión and minor league baseball's new Latino Hispanic fan outreach initiative, because they have some amazing team names.